What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters Live. I'm David Wilson, and we're back again with another Friday stream where we get together as a community and talk about whatever topic I've come up with for the week, and this week is no exception. Let's say hello to the folks who are here in the chat. Apparently, my mouth is just not going to cooperate today, so that's going to be fun. Hello to Data Monoid, Adolfo, Thanos, Gun, Jeff, Tyler, OmniV, I think that's Yele. JD Licht, sorry. Okay. Thank you all for being here so far. Tyler says, looking forward to more Guix Home videos. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, I really just need to like go all in on making Guix content at this point. I mean, obviously Emacs is fun, but I think I've said a lot of what I need to say about Emacs for now, so I'm just gonna focus on Guix for a while, I think. Maybe some other things too, we'll see. But that leads me to the first update of the weeks. Yes, Derwin says the right thing. The joy of pronouncing a global names list live. Yes, it's very difficult, but you know, I try. Hello to Valentino, Daigo, Hunter, Derwin, Eric, there's two Erics. I'm not repeating myself. Hello to fellow worker John. Fellow worker John says, I want to move to Guix, but I really suck at exploring the art of the possible with it. Yeah, it does feel like that whenever you start using Guix. And it takes a little while before you start to feel actually comfortable. I think the key really is, as soon as you can, really try to learn how to program in Guix. And when I say that, I mean, like, don't just write your configuration in Guile Scheme using just whatever the standard format is. Like, actually figure out, you know, more about how to use the REPL for Guix and explore around a little bit, look at package definitions, look at service definitions, and try to understand the system a bit better. That's part of what I want to make videos about this year when I finally get around to it, helping guide people through that process of, okay, I've got Guix installed, but how do I actually become proficient with the system? Because it's not your typical Linux distribution. You have to actually write code to do a lot of things you want to do, which is fine because this is sort of a distribution geared towards that type of person. I think, you know, you kind of like writing Lisp code. You probably like writing an Emacs configuration in Emacs Lisp. So Guix is not really that far away from that. You just have to learn how Guix wants you to do things, which is different than Emacs for sure. Ashrad says, time to give myself a new unpronounceable name. Please don't do that. Eric says, happy birthday belated. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm officially old now. Hello to Emily, Enrico, Max. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. So yeah, what I was going to say is that the video for my FOSDEM 2023 talk, which was last Sunday, has not yet shown up on the website yet. There's something weird going on with the video publishing system for FOSDEM, where it sent me a link saying, hey, your video is ready for review, come check it out. So I went and looked at the preview of the video, and the end, probably like the last minute of the video was chopped off, which makes sense because my video is a little bit long for the slot. But I figured they should be able to like extend the end of it. And I think they have some automated system that takes care of it. You sort of, you know, answer some questions about what the video looked like. And I told it that the video was missing the end. And the next day it sent me another review link. But then when I go click on the review link, it says, oh, your video is live. But when I go to the actual site, this link right here, it's not there. So I'll have to email somebody there. Who knows what's going on with that? Jeff says, old. You're not old yet. Getting there, though. Oh, well, okay. I feel like I'm getting there, but that's just me. Eric says, old are those of us that started using Emacs in the 80s. Well, you know, that's some serious longevity using the same program. I wish that I could write a program that people would be using for, how long has it been now? 40 years, I guess? Hello to Anton, thank you. Okay, so yeah, definitely keep an eye out on this link to see the Guix Home talk that I gave there. It's basically an introduction to Guix Home and goes into a little bit of background about Guix as well. Not too far in depth, but probably more in depth than what you need as someone who's probably seen the Guix videos on this channel already. I will make an actual introduction to Guix Home video for this channel, which is more focused on the things I haven't covered yet. And part of what I want to do today is flesh out some of the ideas that I have that might be relevant to people who are getting started with Guix Home, but also for sort of like the longer term aspects of using Guix Home and also contributing things to Guix Home. So yeah, so I'm sort of procrastinating on making Guix Home videos because I'm still trying to crystallize my thought process on the best way to approach teaching somebody how to use it, because I've given 2 talks so far about teaching Guix Home, one at the Geeks birthday event and one now at FOSDEM 2023. And it's okay. Like, I think that, you know, I'm getting the message across, but there's some pretty critical questions that aren't really being answered. And that is, if I already have a set of existing configuration files, how do I start using Guix Home with those configuration files? So we'll get into that in a little bit, but that's basically the mindset I'm coming from. I want to make sure that I can educate people effectively on how to use Guix Home so they can actually get started with it immediately and not have to like figure a lot of stuff out. I know that some of you who have recently started using Guix again, I've seen Benoit and Alejandro, you know, getting back into Guix again. And, you know, it takes a lot of effort, I think, to get Guix Home working, well, not working, but to feel comfortable that you're actually setting your configuration up correctly with Guix Home. So I want to try to like make that process easier. So we'll discuss it and see how things go on that front. Hello to Nicholas and Andre. Yes, more Guix. Yes, definitely more Guix. You know, Guix doesn't get as much views as Emacs content does, but I think Guix is so important that I'm willing to just like kill my view count and talk more about Guix because I want to help build that awareness of Guix over time. I just think it's such a cool project that I just want to invest more of what I do into Guix to help promote it and also to help develop things. Ashra says, programmatical video editing on Guix with Blender and Guile. That's kind of cool. Well, yeah. I think Guile can run Python code, but it's not exactly the same thing. I would have to be actually talking to Blender. I don't know. Blender is so complicated. Like, I use it for video editing, but I don't think it's a good video editor. So I don't know. I still want to make my own like library for doing code-based video editing, but I don't really have time to do that right now. Jeff says, how to build your Guix Home with Emacs. Yes, well, it's going to be more like how to configure Emacs with Guix Home once I finish the home Emacs service. Eric says, are you still using Sway Window Manager? Yes, I am using Sway, and I'm quite happy with it, actually. I'm satisfied, for sure. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Yele says, Home Stow migration service is in review for inclusion in Guix Home. Might make a good start for the I have an existing config. What now? Cool. I have not seen that. I need to go take a look at it. Ashra says, like a better UI for FFmpeg or another encoder CLI editor. More like either using the FFmpeg or the MLT libraries to provide a code-based interface that would give you something like you know, a nonlinear video editor like, you know, Kden Live or whatever. You could have a minimal interface that shows you sort of like the live view of the video that you're editing, but most of what you're going to do is based on keyboard bindings and also snippets of code that you would write for things like transitions or text overlays on the video, like graphics and whatnot. There's a lot of stuff like that that I would like to do for my own use because, like, I do not like video editing. Well, I like video editing, but I don't like spending a lot of time on video editing. So that's the reason why my videos are always like one take or maybe just edits in one take. because I don't want to spend a lot of time editing videos. But if I had a better way to do that, I would probably make better quality videos. So that's sort of my thought process. Jeff says, I've heard that Pativi is a decent video editor. I've heard that too. I think I've tried it, but I don't remember how it went. Fellow worker John says, I want to use Guix to package some very old C++ code. I'm renovating for managing an LTO tape library. Well, that sounds cool. Okay. The last thing I'll say in the updates today is if you would like a cool way to support the channel, check out the book Mastering Emacs by Mickey Peterson. It's a very good resource for going more in depth with your Emacs knowledge. And Mickey's done a really cool thing to set up an affiliate link so that if you want to check out the book and if you purchase a copy with this link with the masteringemacs.org/r/systemcrafters, a portion of the sale will go to support this channel. And I think it's a really cool thing that he did. I appreciate him for doing that. So check out masteringemacs.org. If you want to see kind of what kind of content is in the book before you buy it, I think there's like a what do you call it? A sample, but there's also like a bunch of blog posts on that website that go into a similar level of depth. So check out the blog, and then that will give you a good idea of sort of the quality of the content that's in the book. All right. Also, there's more ways to support the channel on systemcrafters.net/support the channel. If you're interested in that, just take a look at what I've got written up there. Okay, let's get into the topic for the day, improving the Guix Home experience. So I've already basically introduced the idea here, but what I want to do is discuss some ideas that I have for how we can improve the Guix Home experience, both for new users and for experienced users. If you've used Guix Home, or if you've tried to use it, maybe you didn't have a whole lot of luck with it, I definitely want to hear from your experience and maybe what thoughts you have about how it could be improved. I'm not necessarily the person that would go make these improvements. I would like to, but you know, there's many other contributors to Guix, and probably there's already things happening, like what Yele just said in the chat. So I'm not fully aware of what's already been going on, but I sort of know what I think about how things can be improved. So we will discuss a lot of that stuff here. Let's see. Yeah, and like I said before, this is sort of all based on my own attempts at explaining Guix Home, which, you know, have been, whoa. My headphones just did something really weird. I think it's because of the, okay, there we go, jeez. These are these Bose noise canceling headphones, and sometimes they just decide to turn on, and then all of a sudden I can't hear myself anymore, and it feels like having cotton balls in your ears. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, I would like an easier path for new people to get started. Thank you, Ashraz. I was wondering about that. Hello, Minas Mezar. Okay. So, we're going to discuss some things. Too many highs, too many lows must be bows. Yeah. We're going to discuss all of these topics, and we might try to hack on some ideas for them at the same time, because we've got 2 hours to fill up here. So we might as well, you know, try some things as we're talking about it. But certainly give me your thoughts as we go through this. I see David Thompson's joined the chat. Hey, nice to see you. And let's just see what we can come up with, because I think that, you know, Guix Home is a fantastic basis for managing your user level configuration with Guix, but it does take some effort to get started. And I also think that there's some really cool things that can be done with Guix Home once more home services are in the Guix repo, and maybe other places as well, like third-party channels. All right, first of all, simpler onboarding for existing configs. Now, if you are trying to get started with Guix Home, probably you already have a .files repository, or at least just a configuration set of configuration files for the programs that you typically use, like your window manager or Emacs or other related programs that you use on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you have those files already written, maybe you use, you know, Git repository, maybe you use GNU Stow to place them into your home folder, and you're probably thinking, well, that doesn't really, you know, Guix Home doesn't give me much, because I can already manage my my configuration files using Git. I can sync them across multiple machines. I can apply them how I want, etc. But for me, and I'm guessing for other people who use the same configuration across multiple machines, you kind of need to have a way to customize your individual configuration files per machine. Like let's say maybe you want to use a different font or a different font size or a different theme in your programs or whatever across your different machines. And the only way to do that without a tool that can template it for you is to have different sets of these files, or have like a script that generates the output files based on some values that you configured somewhere, etc. So the very first thing that you could do setting up Guix Home is just take your existing files and use Guix Home to place them in your home folder, which honestly is like overkill because you could use GNU Stow for that. But if you really want to use Guix Home and you've heard about what it provides and you just want to get started with it so that you can, gradually migrate your configuration to be more like traditionally Guix Home style, then linking your existing configuration files is a good start, and you'll probably want to try to template those. So this is definitely possible because you have all the power of Guile Scheme at your disposal, but how can we make that easier so that a person who is using Guix Home for the first time can really easily bring in all of their existing configuration files into their home folder without using a tool like GNU Stow? So let's see if I can find that the PR that Yele mentioned, because I have multiple instances of Nix open here. That's cool. Let's see, Geeks patches, right? Because I haven't looked at that yet, so I'm kind of curious about what it does, because it might be a good solution for the first part of this. So okay, issue 6521. All right, so what is it? Geeks issues. Geeks issue tracker. Search query 6521. Yeah, that's it. Cool. Home Stow migration service. This was on 3rd of January. That's probably why I haven't seen it yet. Okay. To allow GNU Stow users to switch to Guix Home without any change to their Stow directory structure, in the hope that easing the way into Guix Home, allowing users to avoid converting all their dot files to Guix native configurations. Yes. So let's take a look at what this is. Cool. Nice docs. So basically, Home Stow migration service string append getenv home dot files. Okay, so you're basically just giving it the path to the folder that you want to link, which in my case is one folder. It's like my .files/.files path, which is, a nice way to name that. Not really. Let's see what else it does. .files for app. Find files, migration, configuration, return. Oh, what is this? Return a service extending home file service type with files from Stow dir. Okay, so basically just scans the folder path and then just builds up that home file service so that those files get symlinked. So that's great. That is a very good starting point if this does get merged. Let's see what Ludo says. Looks useful. Write a short intro. Yes, I feel like it shouldn't be called Home Stow Migration Service. I feel like it should be called like something more generic. I guess calling it something with Stow in the name is useful for people who use Stow, but not everybody uses Stow, I guess. Like Home Symlink Service or something, I don't know. Andrew chimes in. Cool. All right. So this seems like it's something that could be done. Sorry, what I mean is something that might be merged. More info tag. Okay, so I might reply to that thread. It's good to know. I'll put this in the show notes in case anybody's interested in trying out the patch Stow migration service. All right. Yele says, you know it patches through the first 80% of patch review when we start talking about naming. Only the second 80% to go. Yes, that's true. Very true. All right. So that's great if you want to just take a set of files and just plop them into your home folder without using GNU Stow. Yes. And then you don't need to customize those files. However, if you do want to customize those files, then you need a way to do that. So what I'm thinking of is a simplified home service for existing config files that you want to template. So maybe, well, let me just roll back. Here's an assumption I have. Some users won't necessarily want to use a full home service to configure some subset of their programs. They may have an existing configuration file that they want to parameterize. And this applies to me in some cases because, I don't know, I have some programs that I already have a configuration file for, and it's perfectly fine. I just want to change some of the values in that config file. Like, let's say my Dunst configuration. I want to change the font size on different machines because I have, different screen sizes and different DPIs on different screens. Maybe there's a better way to do that. I don't know, but at least that's something that I would like to do with my configuration files. And I'm sure there are other people who would want to do some level of similar customization. So it should be possible to take an existing handwritten file and insert some sort of template slots in the file, like you would do maybe with like a dynamic web page, like a templating engine for websites, like let's say Jinja or Handlebars or whatever templating engines you can think of. Guile Scheme gives us regular expressions. We have the ability to search and replace inside of text strings. And it is possible to write a simple templating engine. Maybe there's already one somewhere in Guix source, I don't know. But I think that if you provide a very simple service that lets you just list a set of files and then also provide a set of key value pairs to replace entries in that file, or all of those files, basically, whatever it is, then it would be very easy to templatize your pre-existing configuration files and make it easy to put them into your home folder, to configure them per machine. So I already started working on something like this using the regex substitute global function that comes as part of the ICE9 regex library in Guile. And I thought it might be interesting to really quickly try that out and see if we can get something working. But, we won't spend too much time on it because there's other things I'd like to talk about also. So I'm going to copy some stuff over to, well, maybe I'll put it in my own config just to get things moving. So .files, David Will utils. I'll drop this in right here and then copy this and put it right here. And let's see, let's take out the pretty print. All right. So kind of hello Mjolnir. The approach I was thinking for calling, well, let me just say what I've defined here so far. I have two functions. One is something called apply template, which takes a template string and an A list, an association list for the key value pairs that you might want to insert into that file. We have a sort of predefined syntax where you basically just have curly braces and then the name of the key that you want to insert into the file at that location. That might need to be customized. Oh, actually, this is a $ and then a open close curly brace. This may need to be customized for different types of file formats if like this syntax is used for something else, whatever. But the point is that this function should allow you to take a string and then replace the template sections with the values that are being asked for. And then there's a apply template file function that takes a file path and then the value A list. It loads up that file and then applies the template string to, or the template contained in the file to the value A list, and then basically returns that value. So that doesn't actually give us anything that we can use just yet. We actually have to define a home service to make that possible. So if I were to go into, let's see, home services, let's see, which one can I take? Maybe I can take the desktop service and just sort of copy and paste some stuff because I'm not really super fast on that. Let's see, what would I call that? Like the home template files service or something, or yeah. Let's just call it that to get started. So template file.sem. We'll fix that up another time. All right, so home template files service. That's great. So we need a config for this. Do I have a config defined in here? No, but I can make one. So define configuration, home template file configuration, I think, right? I also need to have, what is it, Guix config? I need to pull up the REPL. Let's see, Guix REPL. Is it gonna work? Sometimes starting the REPL doesn't work for me. Benjamin says, I really don't understand what the advantage of Guix is over, say, Debian's package system. Is there some problem that I'm not aware of? You should check out my 5 reasons to use Guix in 2022 or something like that video, or the introduction to Guix, because there's a number of reasons why Guix is better than existing package managers. I mean, obviously, Nix is the closest analog to what you get from Guix, but those two distributions and package managers are on a different tier than the other Linux distribution package managers, in my opinion, because you get things like rollbacks, transactional upgrades, installations, lots of stuff. And you're writing all your config and scheme, so. All right. So I wanted to pull up a REPL. Let's run Geyser instead. Okay, so do I have the right load path? What is it? Load? No. I don't remember how to get the load path list. That's okay. Use Guix. No, it's not in there, is it? I thought that I had that set up correctly. You know what? I think I can add it, can I? What is the command for that? Geyser add to load path. I think there's actually a command. Geyser load path. Okay, add to load path. I want to add my .files folder. I also want to add the projects code Guix folder. Okay, now if I say use Guix, come on now. Was that right? Define configuration. Yeah, something's not right here. So Guix, oh, GNU services configuration. Is that what it is? Let's see. There we go. Cool. And then unbound variable. That's weird. Doesn't seem right, does it? I don't want the node, I want the full. There we are. And that is in GNU services configuration. Yeah, all right. So I already have that here. Copy and paste that over to template file. GNU services configuration. This is just a big mess in here, but that's fine. Got GX twice. And then, let's see. Probably need a files list. don't know if this already exists somewhere. Yeah, this may not be the best way to use our time because I'm a little bit rusty on service definition writing, but let's just give it a shot. Code geeks. What I want to look for. All right, so there's a, no, that's in mine. Okay. Thought I had pulled up. That stupid problem. Okay. I didn't sync that change over from my other computer. So, string list. Okay, there's such thing as string list for some of these, but where are these? Okay, in the cups config. Here's one. I don't know if this is the right thing though. String dash list. Where is that used? Host names. Is there a file path list? Define path. This is one thing that's kind of neat is like, is there a... Okay, define path string. We need kind of a cookbook for the types of config parameters you might want to use. Maybe the docs have that already, but... Okay, so define config. Talking about serializers. Okay, fine. An eye tracker? Boy. I guess that would be pretty interesting. I don't know if it would work in Guix. List of string. Ah, yes. Cool. And that is list of string. List of strings. Extra config, serial list of strings. Okay, that's okay. It's already there. Cool, great. All right, then we just need a list of strings in that case. There's also a list. Cool. So then back in template file, let's just call it list of strings. And what else do I need for that? Where was I? I need a string afterwards. It's like the documentation string. Okay, so. Let's see, right here, and then. Got it. Okay, here we are. Now, the list of files, what is it, relative file paths to include. Hey, Anders. Okay, now we also have the, what is it, configuration values? What would we call that? Values. And then a list. The list of key value pairs to use for templating the configuration files. I don't know if that's going to work. Control X, Control E, unbound variable define configuration. That's kind of weird. Let me just pull this up then. Oh, we probably need to take this export out at first. Are you going to do anything? You're probably pulling in the other modules. So let's see what happens. Taking its time. Benjamin says, well, that's cool. How close are we getting to turning GNU Linux into a Lisp machine? Not that close, I suppose. but at least it will allow you to configure your machine with Lisp, which is great. Okay, so that ran, right? Is it really going to do this again? It did give me any kind of feedback whenever I ran it last time. Okay, it's taking a long time. Where am I? Oh, the REPL is hung. It seems. That's fantastic. All right, let's kill it. Because something's wrong. Go back to the simple file and then run geyser again. And I say GNU service, is it services? Services configuration. Okay, so it did not seem to, yeah, didn't keep the load paths, which is great. Okay, so use GNU services configuration. Yeah, define configuration. Oh, there it is. Did you fail to match any? Okay, maybe it's actually right then. Never mind. So what if I try to run this again? Is that a mistake? Home services shepherd. We don't really need shepherd service. We don't need that. We don't need that. Debugger active package upstream name. I'm not even sure where that's coming from. Okay. Oh, we were in Guix UI. Interesting. So what if I do this? Home template file. Yeah, it's not loaded. Doesn't look like it's loaded. This may be a waste of time, so I won't spend much more time on this if it doesn't work. Unbound variable. Come on now. List of strings, unbound variable. Okay, so I don't want to serialize that. Yeah, so I think what I need is define configuration. Was it no serialize? What? Define configuration slash no serialization. Okay, fine. Debugger exited. So it must have worked that time. Okay, so if I were to say then home template file configuration. Files. Okay, cool. So it is working to some degree. So let's back out of the debugger levels. Okay, so now home template file service type, files service type. So we have the config, which is this configuration here. And basically for each of these, we just need to return the list of files with a G expression for each that returns the templated output. So we need to do like a map over it, I think. And I've forgotten the right way to do a map with a G expression, so we may have to try that out a little bit or experiment a little bit. I had a lot of stuff that I wrote during the, well, during the other REPL video, so I might have to go find those notes. All right, so we're gonna map over the, let's see, file. We're gonna map over the files. For each file, let's do this first. Home template file configuration files. And we're gonna say for the config. And for each file, we need to run that apply template file function that I have. So we need to return a pair. This probably, well, let's do this first. So file. We also probably need to build the path correctly. So let's say base path. I don't know. Probably not the right way to do that. The base path from which all relative paths are calculated. So then in this case, maybe we want a let full path is, what is it, canonical, Guile canonical file path, file system, canonicalized path. So right. And if I, is there a way to, okay, I have the file name, what is it? There's a separator, right? Separator. File name separator string. Did I already use that inside of utils? No, okay. So then canonicalize path. Is that right? Okay. String append. This is a little bit risky, but we'll see what happens. File, base path, and then we also want to use the file name separator string. If anybody knows of a library function that does that in a more reliable way, then that would be great. So now we have full path const with the templated output. So we can say apply template. We also need to read. Well, no, we don't. I think we already have that. So apply template is a function, apply template file. Full path. Hey. And then we also need the home template file configuration values. C#Rus config. Okay, so that should templatize that the file contents at the full path. Oh, I also need to return desktop. Let's see, was it a plain file? File service, files service. Local file, yeah, I think it's just plain file. So in this case, I think this returns a G expression. I still need the apply template file. Hey, Alejandro. And then we need the file name for the original file. So if I were to go look back at this, where's my mouse? Here we are. File name. No. Temp file. Temp name. suffix provided and it is equal to the end of the base name, it's removed also. Okay, so maybe just base name. Base name something.txt, or actually let's give a bogus file path .file slash. Okay, yeah, that's good. All right, so that gives us a G expression for creating a plain file in the store using the file name of the full path and then applying the template contents of full path with the values that are expressed in the config. And that will do that for every file in the configuration files list. Now, I don't know if that's actually going to work, but that's what we're going to figure out in just a minute. I mean, maybe it's simpler even to not have a configuration. Maybe this service just takes parameters directly, because why do you really need a configuration if it's not going to be serialized anyway? If you just want things to be easy for a new user to get started with, then potentially having it take parameters to do this stuff instead could be more straightforward. I don't know what the rules are, I guess, in Guix for this, or in the Guix repository. So we'll stick with the config for now. But if we were to try to use this in the configuration, let me just give that a shot. If I go back to my configuration for this machine, and I try to pull in this template, was it template files? Template file service, template file, I don't know. Not the best thing, but whatever. All right, so we got a list here. I'll put another service in for my service, template file service. Maybe I'll take out a couple of these things because they're not really needed at the moment. I don't want to cause extra stuff to be added into this when I test it out using the container. So we'll just take out packages, we'll take out everything else. Or in fact, how about we make a separate test file for this instead? And this won't be a module, this is just gonna be a plain old file. I don't know which of these we actually need, but maybe I'll just let them all be there. That's right? Should be enough. Don't need this append, don't need that. Just need the list. Get rid of that also. All right, so with the template file service, oh, it's the home template file service, and then home template file configuration files. This is going to be a list. I guess we could just have it be a quoted list. Base path. Now, let me go take a look at what I have in my dot file. So dot files, is that right? Dot config dunst. No, that's actually a good point too, because I need a way to map the output file path. Didn't think about that. Anyway, let's just try it anyway and see what happens. So inside of this dunst config, I might change it so that I can configure something. Where's the font? Okay, so font, I can say dunst/font. Probably should take this string also. I think that's the right way to do it. Well hidden with all the dots? Yes, of course. Okay, so this is going to be .config. Oh, you know what? That's actually good. Okay, config, what was it? Dunst/dunstrc. Base path is going to be home.file or home David Will dot files dot files, whatever. And we have the files list here. That's going to be one of the files. We're also going to have the values list, which is going to be an A list. And we're going to have the dunce/font be this iosefka string. All right, so. And the idea is that you would just list all the files that you wanted to templatize, and then you would have all the values here so that you just have one service that takes all these and templates them. We're going to find out real fast whether it works or not, though. We don't need systems common. We don't need systems base. I think we only have the home services template file. I think that's it, right? Let's give it a shot. We're going to go to a vterm. And let's get out of there. Whoa, vterm. Okay, I don't know why my prompt looks so funky, but that's fine. So, Guix Home container. Let's also add my .files path to the load path. Container slash test dash config .scm. Whoa, wrong. Okay. Home template file service unbound variable because I forgot to export. Let's go back up here. We'll just take this and say home template file service type. Is that right? Nope. Home template file files service. What did I call my other services? Home. Oh, okay. I forgot this part. So home template file service type. Yeah, we need the file service. We just didn't add this part yet. Template file. Yeah. Okay. And we don't need this profile service type. We don't need a shepherd service type. We just need the files service type. And I'll rename this to home template file files service right there. That's that function. Also default value. I guess there needs to be a config. So home template file configuration. Don't know what's going to happen there though, but we'll find out. Home template file service. Okay. Home template file service. And we also need the home template file configuration. Okay, so extraneous field initializers value. I think I put value instead of values. So value. Home template file service type. Home template file service type unbound variable. Home template file service type. Home template file service type. That's weird. Home template file service type. Home services template file. Home services template file. That's interesting. It definitely loads the code. Home template file service type. Home template file service type. Let's do this also. I don't know. Shouldn't have to do that. So dot files. We're just going to try this out real quick. Use David Will home services template file. Yes, Alejandro might be right, actually. Aha. Okay, so there was a compilation error. Oh, whoops. I need to go into my utils. and take out this line. That's wrong. All right, so invalid value S for field A in template file. It's not giving us a line. Let me go look at, was it because I tried to create an instance of that configuration? Weird. So default values in, there's a maybe, I see, maybe string. There's a maybe string list, okay. Maybe I can use that. Well, no, it's required. Let's go back to template file and not do this. That's fine. This is just a test to see if it works. Okay, so that did work. Now let's go back to running the container. Test config does not return a home environment. You're probably right. Let's see, test config. Yes, it does not. I'm glad it told me. All right, base path, unbound variable. Cool, probably inside of template file. Let's see, base path. Yep, so that's gonna be home template file configuration base path config, and we'll just delete that off the end. And I made a typo here, apparently. Apply template file unbound variable. Oh, okay, I gotta go into the utils file and export this one. Wow, that's supposed to be something else. Is that what it's called? Apply template file? Okay. Interesting. Am I printing it out? Is that what's happening? Throw to key match error with args. Match no matching pattern. Plain file. That's kind of weird. Config, font config with computed file. Did I do something wrong here? Because that seems like there's no dot. Ah, it's supposed to be a list and not a const pair. That's my mistake. So let's get rid of this dot here. Okay, one dependency couldn't be built. Which one is that? Build log files.drive. Oh, come on. Whoa. Make dear, permission denied. Okay, that's fun. Anyway, that's the idea. It's not fully working. Maybe we'll go back to it after we discuss a few more things, because I think I've lost enough people just trying to hack on this while we're going here. I'll put the code for this in the show notes at the end of the stream. So then back to the slides. So that's sort of the idea, is that we would have a way to make it easy to use existing configuration files that you already have written, but templatize those so that they're easy to put together into a new configuration. And you can imagine that in this test config, you may have multiple files here. So for instance, you could also have like a polybar configuration or a sway configuration or any other files that you want to parameterize per machine. And then for each home environment config for each machine, you may just have a different set of values, or maybe you'll have like a base set of values and you append the machine-specific values onto that. Because this is Scheme, you can do basically whatever you want to come up with the list of files that you put here, and also the list of values that get used in the templating process. So I think a service like this could be helpful for people who are trying to get started and do want to do a little bit of parameterization, but they don't want to have to go like write their own complete home services for each program they use, because that does take a lot of time and it feels like a lot of work just to make simple things to work. This template file configuration also might benefit from like a packages list, so you can also list what packages you want. But then again, you can just do the same thing here in the top level home environment. So it can be done different ways. So the next thing would be creating shareable configuration layers. And this requires that you have well-designed home services. So like if you think about what you're really supposed to be doing with Guix Home, it is that you have these services like the ones that I just wrote, where you sort of describe the things that get done by the service, like you're putting files in the file system, or you're installing packages, or you're running Shepherd services, etc. And you're defining some kind of configuration type that allows you to give values to that to do whatever it needs to do. If you come up with these kinds of services for various applications, like Emacs, could be window managers like Sway, it could be other programs like Dunst, or could be like this Waybar, or any programs that a person might want to use. If you make them sufficiently customizable such that there's not just one way to use that service, like you don't lock them into a particular paradigm for how they configure that service, then it's possible that someone could write a layer of configuration over the top of all those home services, so that maybe you want to have a Sway-based desktop environment, and you want to do it easily without having to know all the different services that you need to put together to accomplish that. Maybe there's some easy library function that a Guix channel provides that will create all the individual services, and then could provide you with a much more simplified configuration object where you say like what you want your theme to be, what font you want to use, that sort of thing, so that you don't have to think too much about it. You can just load a pre-made configuration for some subsection of the home environment that you're installing. So window manager is, or I guess desktop environment is one good example of that. You could have any number of different window manager or desktop environment configurations that someone has customized and they're sharing through their own channel, or maybe even it's something in the Guix repository. And also for things like Emacs, the crafted Emacs configuration that we've been working on for a while could be applied to a user's home configuration using this home Emacs service that I've submitted to the Guix patches alias, where sort of the design of that service enables you to build on top of it so that you can have a more simplified service that can, say, load like certain modules from a built-in configuration, even clone the repository for that configuration, and then have your own personal customizations as a like a set of key value pairs like the one we just saw. So if you have well-designed home services for various different purposes, then it does make it possible to do any kind of layer of customization on top. And I think that's a cool way where different people in the Guix community could come up with kind of configuration styles or spins or distributions of some sort, maybe like a lightweight distribution where you could say, hey, I want to have this like really optimized Sway configuration, almost like a Doom Emacs sort of thing for Guix, but it doesn't have to be centralized and it doesn't have to be one monolithic configuration. You can pick and choose from different people who have made the sort of the configuration shapes that you want and then apply them to your system. Now, obviously, that does mean that you're depending on them for maintaining that configuration and then not breaking you in the future, but that's, you have that problem with anything that you use, so not a huge concern. But I think that's a kind of a cool way that Guix Home could start to become more prevalent, as if it's really easy to set up a cool working environment to base your system on, and then have the full power of Guix Home to do whatever the rest of the configuration you need. RDE by Andrew Tropin is a really good example of this kind of idea, but it sort of takes it to, I guess, not the limit, I would say, but it really fleshes out the concept to make a full customized distribution of Guix with its own concepts, which we'll talk about in a little bit anyway. But I think that's an area that I would like to explore, because if I'm recommending that people use Guix and Guix Home, it would be a lot easier for people to get started if I could say, hey, pull down the System Crafter's Guix channel and then use this home service to just deploy this entire thing that I showed you in this video. You could try it out, you could use it and see if you like it. And then if you do like it, you could contribute to it, or you could just sort of copy that configuration into your own config and then do your own thing, whatever you want. We haven't gotten there yet for Guix Home, because Guix Home still requires a lot of individual work to set everything up. So I think with more contributions for home services for various different programs, then it will be possible to build these kind of layers of config on top. Alejandro says, I see a great use for Emacs configurations. It's not very easy to manage it with Guix Home without locking your configuration files. Yeah, I have a few different ideas on that. We've talked about them before in previous streams, but once the home Emacs service gets merged, I might make a video or a stream or something about the ways that you might want to use that, because I think it has its interesting use cases. I think there's a few different ways you could use it. Also, providing a unified configuration model for both home and system services. Now, this obviously isn't for getting started users. This is for people who have decided that they're going to base their entire system configuration on Guix, and they want an easier way to create a config that spans both their home configuration and their system configuration. So RDE, the reproducible development environment that I mentioned before, has a concept called features that accomplishes this. And basically what it does is it defines this new layer of configuration on top of Guix Home and Guix System, where you have something called a feature, which can provide elements to the Guix Home configuration and to the Guix System configuration, so that you say, I want to turn on the Sway desktop environment feature. Then it will configure both the home environment and the system to do everything that's needed to make Sway work the way that RDE wants it to work. And for Sway, there is stuff that you need to do at the system level for enabling Sway lock to lock your screen. There's like a set UID module that you have to set up. So certain things that you might want to do in your Guix Home configuration may also require, now I'm speaking in general with Guix, certain things you want to do in your Guix Home configuration might actually require you to do equivalent changes or other related changes to your Guix System configuration. And it can be difficult to know exactly what those changes are. So with just a plain Guix Home service for configuring Sway, you wouldn't necessarily know that you need to set up your set UID programs for Sway lock. And there's no way for Guix Home to do that for you. So I feel like this is sort of a missing feature in Guix itself, a way to unify kind of like an overarching feature or overarching service, I suppose, that spans both the home configuration and the system configuration. And RDE has a good implementation that you can check out on the source repo for the project in this link that I have here. I think that it would be a good idea to consider this kind of thing for Guix as well. Now that does imply that there might be a third type of configuration that encompasses both a home config and a system config, and maybe Guix doesn't want to actually do that. Maybe that's something that a third-party channel or library would need to do by default. I need to talk to some folks in the Guix maintainers team and see what they think about that, but it could be pretty useful, I think, just to have a way to say, I want to turn on this desktop environment, and then you just do whatever you need to do in my system config, and my home config to make that happen. But like I said, Guix doesn't necessarily need to provide this, because if you wanted to use what RDE already provides, you could actually pull down the RDE channel right now, and you could probably use this feature concept, but you would probably have to also adopt the style of configuration that RDE expects you to have, and also the commands that you need to run to apply that configuration. So, you start to buy into this other channels approach whenever you do that, and it would be nice if you could just use plain old Guix to do this kind of thing also. Also, I don't know, if anybody has thoughts on these things, please feel free to say it in the chat, because I'm just talking a long time, and I don't really know if it makes sense. So, hey Andrew, I was just talking about you. I was talking about RDE features, because I think this is something that, Guix may need something like this in general. Yes, you think RDE is cool? Of course you do. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the possibility of having something like Nix flakes for Guix. And this sort of actually relates to the previous thing we were just talking about, where maybe there's like an overarching configuration format that spans both home and system configurations. So Alejandro says, what are flakes? I am not an expert on flakes. I haven't used Nix in a long time, but Benoit has sent me a link to his flake configuration. And also I looked at the website for flakes a little bit. Let's see, Nix flakes. So the idea for flakes, I believe, is to have one configuration file that you can use to deploy various different types of configuration to a system. In this case, you have your inputs, which would be like the channels that you want to use. I think this is like channels basically. So like the home manager channel, some kind of deploy RS channel, the ST channel, the DWM channel. I think some of these are Benoit's own repos. So having one configuration format that has the channels that you want to use, also your home configuration. I believe he has his home configuration being pulled in from a file, local file here. Also, he has his NixOS configurations for multiple systems all in one file. Also some system deployment information as well. You have one file that has all this stuff. And what that means is you can use one Guix command to deploy an entire system. So I think this would be pretty cool, because one problem that people have whenever they have bought into Guix and have been using Guix for a while, and they've already got their system configurations and their home configurations for various machines already set up, is that to install your whole configuration on a machine, you have to run Guix system reconfigure. You have to go through the whole installer process, which may be unavoidable. And then you have to log into your user account and then run Guix Home reconfigure. So if there was a way to have one overarching configuration file that you could just use one command to apply everything all at once, then it's conceivable that you could just point that command to a URL, so that you could say, all right, so I want you to run my configuration from my Git repository to set up this new machine that I'm just sitting in front of right now. I've already set up my partitions. Just use this configuration file. Boom, apply it all directly, or set up all my channels the way that I want them to be set up, and everything. That's something that Guix doesn't have at the moment. I think it would be really cool if Guix did have it, because it would make things easier to replicate your personal system. Andrew says, it also makes it possible to do hermetic evaluation, ensuring your config doesn't access some stuff from the local environment. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Alejandro says, wasn't Nix knight in Greek? I don't know if it was knight in ancient Greek, but it's nikta for modern Greek. But yeah, we're not gonna try to implement Nix flakes for Guix today, but that's something that would be cool if some folks could have a discussion about that for implementing something similar in Guix, and do it the way that Guix needs it to be done, and not necessarily just copying Nix flakes, obviously. Maybe we'll do another stream on that sometime and try to hack up something to make that happen. It would be a good way to look at some Guix internals, I think, because I'm not exactly sure how I would automate the setting up of channels. I know there's some kind of channel service, at least in the home configuration, and maybe even for system config, but I don't know if it's easy to set that up in an automated way. So I don't know. Gun says the X in Greek sounds like KH. It sounds like like he. Like himonas, like what it is right now. It's winter. It's extremely cold. So that's basically what I had to talk about. It wasn't super prepared, the whole set of ideas, but these are the things I'm thinking about, and it's what I would like to do. I would like to try to contribute some of these ideas to Guix if people in the Guix community actually are interested in it. It might be interesting for Andrew, because I know Andrew's paying attention to the Guix Home patches and whatnot, but if there's some things that we can put into Guix that can make it easier for RDE to do the same thing, then maybe RDE could be simpler and just build on things that are in Guix. So I would be happy to work with Andrew on maybe trying to like find a way to generalize some of those concepts and move them into Guix. Yes, I moved to Greece. Like 2 years ago now? Was it? Year and a half? Yeah. Like a year and a half ago. Gun says, as Deck mentioned, when you pronounce it the right way, your keyboard may become slightly moist. Maybe. Definitely my pop filter on my microphone might become moist. Don't write comments from the phone. I didn't even see it. Whatever was wrong with the comment. Okay. So since I got through what I wanted to say, I'll go back and see if I can finally make that templatization service work correctly. Because I did something wrong, obviously. So the build log, I must have killed it already. Let's see, find file at point. Oh, come on now. Permission denied. Who knows why? Oh, you know what? That's probably the problem. If I go back to template file and I don't use full path, what I want is file. I think that's the problem. Let's try this again. That might have worked. Takes a little bit of time. Okay, so if I check out .config/dunst/dunstrc, let's see if I can find where the iosevka is. Where are you? Oh, no, it didn't catch that. Let's see. Grep. Yeah, I don't think I have grep in the container. So template string. I don't know if this actually works. And I shouldn't be returning not found here. That's for sure. Andrew says, I don't know if you saw it yet, but we did some work on tree sitter in Guix, so it should land soon. That's great. I'd be happy to have tree sitter in Emacs. Okay. Value A list, string to symbol. Oh, is that a string where? Okay, the string is here. Maybe. I'm not expecting quotation marks. So I'm pulling the string out, I'm turning it to a symbol. Nicholas says Nix was actually Nichta and written like Nix. Interesting. Cool. Now that Nix has Xi as the last character. That's how you have the Nix, because the X in Greek is not X, or it's not X, but Xi is X, sort of. Let's see. Okay, if entry, if I found it, then I return the second part of the pair. String to symbol, match substring M1, which should be that group. Should have worked. We know for sure that it pulled the content of the file. So something in the apply template function is just not working correctly. Actually, am I... Okay, I'm returning the string. Cool. So that should be right. Maybe what I can do is write it out to the console. Let's go back to utils. Format. Terrible debugging approach, but you know, we do what we can. Am I inside? Okay, let's do that. I probably should be trying to use the REPL for this. Oh, nothing changed. It should have changed. Yeah. Probably this is not the right way to do this, actually. See you, Andrew. Thanks for dropping by. Okay, so... let's try this in the REPL. Let's go back into the REPL we already have open, not the Guix REPL. It's weird that it actually is there now, REPL. Okay, so if I say m David Will utils. Oh, now we're getting Latin style in the chat. I don't know what I did wrong here. Third key unbound variable with args resolve interface, no binding a, okay. Let's restart the REPL. No. Geyser restart REPL, there we go. I don't know why I have two of them now. All right, and then apply template, cool. All right, we got that. So let's do a little test. Apply template. Oh, I haven't actually exported that either. Probably won't let me. I think there's a way to access. Oh, okay. Did I do that? Whatever. Oh, I'm inside the module. Fine. Apply template. Foo my val. And then we're going to have an A list, my val 5. Okay, so that worked. I don't know why it didn't work for the Dunst one. Maybe if I have a slash. Oh, the slash is the problem. Okay, that's what it is. I'm not allowing for slashes in the values. Yep, okay, there we go. Can I just put like one slash in there? Re-eval that function. Boom. Okay, so now it should work. But the problem is it doesn't know. Alejandro says, how do you add your modules path to the REPL with Geyser? There's a command, Geyser add to load path. So if you run that, it will ask you for the path, and then it will add it to the load path of the running REPL, which is very useful for things like this. Okay, so that's verified now. If I go back to my config, let's change this value. Maybe that will be enough to wake it up. Go back to the vterm and then run the config again. Hopefully it will pick up the change. Okay. Cool, and then cat. Do I have grep? No. Cat.config. I guess I could put core utils, huh? So packages, is grep in core utils? So which grep read link, which grep. It's in grep. Okay, cool. That's good. And Guix search grep. That is in GNU packages base. Okay, well maybe I can just put that here, right? List grep. Is that enough? Okay, whatever. GNU packages base. All right, so cat.config dunst rc grep iosevka. Hey, it worked. So that does allow us to templatize individual files. I would probably make the name of this service better. Also might be nice to have like a helper function to set this up so that you don't have to use the service pattern. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But, you know, it's kind of verbose having to declare the service or have the service function with the home template file service type. I mean, if you were to do this a different way, you could say something like define template config files or template files. I don't know. And then file list value a list. And then you would just say service. Well, it's basically this whole same thing here, right? Boom. All right. And for the base path, oh yeah, we need the base path too. So let's do this. In the list, we'll say template files. The base path, we'll just pass it straight through. It's debatable on whether this is better or if it's less readable. You could also have keyword parameters in the function if we wanted to do that. Template files. And then the values list. Like that. Okay. And we can just say value a list, file list, and then base path. In theory, that should work. So that would be much simpler. You can just have a whole list of files here. So let's see, what else would I possibly want to templatize? Files, config. Definitely sway. But that I would probably write a home service for because it's a lot more complicated. Waybar, let's see. What's in Waybar? Style.css. Yeah, we could say like the font size. The default font size. But maybe not that one. Let's find another. Qt browser is definitely one that we could do. So let's just say we wanted to templatize our Qt config and make the default scroll. Where is it? Is it in the other file? The autoconfig.yaml? No. Oh, config.py. Okay, so this zoom default. What we could do here is have a Qt browser /zoom. I'm using this sort of name spacing so you can have, you know, different programs be configured in certain ways. So if I were to go add that to my testconfig.sem, I could say .config /Qt browser / what is it? config.py. Might be that we would want to even have like a glob pattern here because we want more than just config.py. We want the rest of these config files to show up as well. So it's possible that this would need to be a little bit more intelligent. In fact, that Stow service that we saw before could also be a a service that could take things like this to templatize the files that are being moved over. So maybe that's something for them to think about. So let's do this. Yeah, actually, if you just take the entire folder and move them over, then maybe that's better, right? Because you don't want to have to like list all the individual files. Maybe you just have a whole folder of files that you want it to either symlink or templatize. But let's, for the sake of the example, let's just do this and get it done. Qt browser / zoom dot 180. Let's say 150, just so we can see for sure that it's working. Hey, Benoit. I was showing off your Nix flake config a little while ago. All right, so I'll get out of this. I'll run it again. Cool, seems to be working. I'm gonna go take that stuff out of the utils.scm. This looking up. Terrible. So cat.config, Qt browser, config.py, grep. Benoit says, if you didn't know, I'm running RDE now. Yes, I've been seeing you sending emails to the RDE development alias because I'm a spy. Okay, so grep, let's see, zoom. Well, not zom, zoom. And there it is, 150%. So that, I think that's easier. If you already have, a working configuration and you want to just templatize the files that that you have and just plug values in, then this service is one way to do that. But maybe that Stow service that's being proposed is the right place for that. Because if it already goes through and finds all file objects in or under a particular path, then it's conceivable that you could templatize those at the same time. So I might make that suggestion on that patch request, because it would be cool to do that. So that's pretty much all I had today. I'm gonna go ahead and put the stuff into the show notes. Let me go back into the org file. Shell file globbing. Yeah, I think that in Guile and Guix, you need to do a little bit of extra work for that. Which sounds like that Stow service already is doing it. Just in time for the end? Yes. I'm going to stop early today because I'm freezing. It's so cold and I forgot to turn the heater on, so it's a little bit late to get that going. Okay, so let's see. This is going to be testconfig.scm. And this is dot files, David will, utils.scm. We'll just do like a subsection of that file because there's other stuff in there that's not needed. Let me go to that utils. Yeah. Read manifest, don't need to gather manifest packages. Okay, that's the apply template file. Cool, so that's that. So I would actually like to ask, both Benoit and Alejandro have recently been using Guix Home, I know. So I want to know from both of you, if you have a moment, what's been the hardest thing to configure in Guix Home? Or like what's been sort of like the sticking point for Guix Home recently? Gun says Hioni in Greek. Yeah, it's snow. It has been snowing. But at least not in the last couple days. Finding services was the toughest. Yeah, that's the biggest problem right now, is the fact that there aren't that many. And you have to write them. And Benoit says this is where RDE came in. Yeah, I think that we need to probably port some of the services that are in RDE over to Guix proper. And I know that Andrew has mentioned wanting to do that at some point, but I think he's busy like making RDE better. So I might try to help on that, because I really do want to start fleshing out the services in Guix Home so that when I start telling people, hey, use Guix Home, there's actually stuff to use, because right now there isn't. It's very minimal, and you have to do a lot of work yourself. And that's part of the reason why it took me like a year to even start learning how to write services, home services properly, because I just like, it takes time. And if you have to write home services for everything, then it's difficult. Yele says, anything that depends on Sway UI running, missing something like herd update in Wayland display. Interesting. Okay. Jeff says, understanding how to use services, for example, the desktop file service, still haven't worked that one out. Finding docs and trying to understand examples. Only using Guix and a VM for crafted Emacs development. Ah, cool. Yeah, I would like to potentially add some more information to the Guix manual to explain how you're supposed to use Guix Home, because it does have a lot of information about how Guix Home works, but not so much about like, what do you do? How do you start, Obviously, making videos for that is one thing that needs to happen, but I think the manual needs to also help out the new user. And Alejandro said, what was it? Guile, yes. Yeah, I also, excuse me. I think a Guile tutorial video would be helpful. We've been doing enough Guile recently on the channel that I think it's time probably to have some videos on that, especially setting up Geyser. Yeah, like Benoit says, dev environment for Guix Guile, like having Geyser set up and setting up the load paths and being able to like bounce around in the REPL for stuff for everything. Let's see. Alejandro says, Bash does a very good job making it easy for the user to configure it, but I believe there should be a standard way to configure. Yeah, for sure. Gunn says, how long until the next Emacs stream? It just really depends on whether something interesting in Emacs land showing up for me, because as of right now, I don't spend a whole lot of time on my own Emacs config because everything just sort of works. So I'm not learning anything new. And usually whenever I'm talking about Emacs stuff, it's because I've learned something new. I thought something was interesting. I'm finding more interesting stuff to learn about Guix these days. So that's the reason why you see more Guix streams and topics. If I end up spending more time with Nixt, I'll probably do some more streams on Nixt, because it was probably the most popular stream I did in the short term compared to other things we've been talking about Guix-wise. Benoit says, this is where features come in, RDE, opinionated defaults for Guix services. Yeah, we were talking about features before. The other benefit of features is that it configures things across both the home and system config, which is something that Guix is sort of lacking right now. Alejandro says, next stream, configure Emacs with Guix Home and template files. Well, we had a stream recently where I sort of did something like that, where you don't really use template files so much. What you do is you have your Emacs config set up in modules, and you use def-var to define variables, or even def custom to define variables that get used in your Emacs config. And then you use Emacs home service to generate the list of variable settings to configure those per machine, and then also decide which modules to load up. And I feel like that is pretty a pretty good model for Emacs config with Guix Home, because you have all your actual configuration files written in Emacs Lisp. You don't try to write all your config in Scheme, which doesn't really make sense to me. But then you can pull in, you can basically assemble your Emacs configuration using Scheme and setting certain variables per machine so that you set font settings or themes or whatever. Yeah, it's awesome. It's a cool approach, and the Home Emacs service enables that. Jeff says the crafting Emacs rewrite will fit in that model pretty well. Yep, I want to take a look at that because that's what I'm hoping. Sir Robert Downey Sr. says, please consider my request accessing encrypted org mode files over mobile devices like Droid or iPhone. I don't know how you do that, because typically encryption is being done with the GPG key, right? So you would have to have GPG set up the right way, and I don't know if any apps on Android are going to be able to do the decryption. Let's see, what did Yele say? It has quite some missing polish, but try running Geyser Connect local with Guix REPL dash. Oh, interesting. Okay. I like that. So Yele in the Twitch chat is suggesting a way to set up a Guix REPL without having to do some of that preamble, which is good. I mean, the Guix REPL inside of the Emacs Guix package should work for that, but I have a problem sometimes where it doesn't want to actually start up the REPL. I don't know what the problem is with that. Antonio says, what is the Emacs package config that shows key presses on top? That is the KeyCast package. So Tarsius KeyCast. And in that package, there is a command. Let's see, tab bar, KeyCast tab bar mode. So it will put the KeyCast information in the tab bar. So if you have tab bar mode turned on, it should show up there. Benoit says, feature KeyCast. Yes, that works if you're using RDE. Alejandro says, I would like to enable, disable Emacs packages based on my Guix Home config. Something like extend service maybe. Yeah, you could definitely set something up in your own config to only enable certain packages on certain machines, for sure. So yeah. There's a lot of value that can be added to Guix Home and just Guix overall, I think. Part of what I would like to do this year is to put my own skin in the game and try to do a lot more contributions to Guix. Some things will get in, some things won't get in. It really just depends on what the maintainers think. But I feel like I'm starting to understand Guix well enough now that I probably could make decent choices and make suggestions that will work. So, and obviously taking a lot of inspiration from what Andrew Tropin has done in RDE, because I feel like that's like the next step for where Guix could be. But, to bring some of those kinds of features into Guix, they probably need to be thought through with maybe a broader view to make sure that they are the right features for Guix, because you don't want to have, breaking changes in Guix itself. So it takes a bit more time. Benoit says, that's what RDE does. Each time I had a need, that was the answer for me. Well, yep. Benoit says, should crafted Emacs be built from RDE features functionality? Well, it would, yes, something like that. That's basically what I had in mind, is that we would have like a crafted Guix channel, and that would have some effectively modules or features for crafted Emacs, where you could pull in the individual crafted Emacs modules and configure them really easily. But yeah, we'll see whenever that all comes online. I mean, Jeff's done a lot of work to refactor the crafted Emacs config to make that possible, and we just need to test it out and try it. Benoit says you could use module RDE features. Yeah, maybe so. I mentioned that before. I don't know if you need to. I have a feeling that you need to do some extra stuff to make use of features. Like, you could write features in your configuration, but to actually apply them to your system, it's probably not as straightforward as just like returning a home config. All right, I am gonna sign off because I'm freezing. I gotta go downstairs and get warm. So anyway, thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate the input and your attention. I know I lost some folks because I was writing code for too long there, but we made it work. It worked out in the end. I think it's pretty cool. So next week, who knows what we'll talk about? It just depends on whatever I'm doing that week. So if you want me to talk about Emacs stuff, tell me cool Emacs things I should check out, and then maybe I'll talk about them on stream next time. That's the only way that it's going to happen, I think. So anyway, I hope all of you have a great weekend, and until next time, happy hacking. We'll see you.